On to World's End, and we will be back on Saturday night doing a rundown of this pay-per-view. They have added matches to the pre-show. We don't have to break these down because they're kind of just one-off matches. Jeff Jarrett against QT Marshall has been added. Tony Storm against Layla Gray. And the Outrunners teaming with Top Flight against Leo Rush, Action Andretti, Lance Archer, and Brian Cage. So that is on the 0 hour portion. And then we have 8 matches as part of the pay-per-view. Let's start off with the feud of the year, MJF against Adam Cole, with Matt Taven and Mike Bennett in Adam Cole's corner. I can only hope that there is a turn and we prolong this even further. This feud needs to end at the stroke of midnight, and we move on in separate directions, and these two just go their separate ways with the Dynamite Diamond Ring at stake.
Yeah. What did you think of their explanation of I feel like we've had sort of like retcon after retcon after retcon of this whole saga, trying to just like convince it and trying to fix.
I turned on you because you were going to turn on me. I was. Oh no, I caught myself saying it out loud on national TV.
It just feels like they're trying so hard to dig themselves out of this hole that just like, it's just sort of hopeless at this point. The fans have given up on this, and I really don't think there's anything they could do to turn things around other than to have an amazing match, which I think these two are very capable of. In the end, that could save almost any like bad story, most bad stories, I want to say. But in order to really save the legacy of this match, which is all I think they're after at this point, these two need to go and have an amazing, straight up professional wrestling match. Maybe a little bit of storytelling, but don't even try to overdo that. Like just give us some great wrestling.
It's the reason I hate having Taven and Bennett attached here to Adam Cole, because I think your audience is all going to be like waiting for some turn and Kyle O'Reilly getting involved or Roderick Strong coming back. I mean, this one is ripe for interference and like prolonging this with more turns on top of this. I don't know if this is going to be this just send off of this feud that to me has just been so poorly received. And I think it's dramatically impacted Adam Cole. I'm less concerned about MJF pivoting after this program to something more engaging. But Adam Cole, I just think like his comeback, like, I don't know. It's been very disappointing, and I just can't believe we're here with this program, and I can't imagine they're too inspired by what's been thrown at them as well. But I guess that's the silver lining, is they could have a really great match, and that could be the forgiveness at the end for your audience here. But I expect some more turns in this whole thing with Strong and O'Reilly somehow weaved in.
So I guess 2 questions. 1, who wins the match? 2, who will the crowd cheer and who will the crowd boo?
Back when they were going into Full Gear, I thought MJF was in that position where here is the heel that the audience is really going to get into because Cole has not been that over in the babyface role. I think both have taken a pounding in this program that I don't know if the audience is just going to gravitate towards MJF, because I don't think he's in that role either. Like maybe that happens.
Florida, my preference you also wonder if like Florida might be partial to Cole at all, if that has any effect on things.
My preference would be Adam Cole winning this match, and he finally takes the ring away from MJF, and that's the end of this, and it sends them their separate ways. My thought is that Adam Cole gets screwed in this, and he's got O'Reilly, Strong, Taven, and Bennett to run through.
Okay,
and
so
MJF has turned all his friends on Adam Cole.
I mean, I think that'll still end things, Like Taven and Bennett turning on Cole doesn't necessarily mean that they're working with MJF. It could just means that they're turning on Adam Cole, right? I think no matter what this ends, I actually think MJF keeps it, because what good is Adam Cole with a heelish ring? It's just a ring. Whereas like MJF still, like to him, it's a weapon. It's a signature weapon, and it's essentially what the gimmick is. It's the MJF gimmick, right? So I could see MJF retaining.
Moving on, thankfully. Mariah May and Thunder Rosa Tijuana street fight for the AEW Women's World Championship. I'm glad that the stipulation is attached to this. I think this is going to be your wild, crazy brawl, and I think Thunder Rosa has always performed the best in these matches. She did a Tijuana street fight a number of months back that turned out really well on television, and I think Mariah May, this is another opportunity for her to have sort of a bloodbath and outside of her typical presentation as well. So I see Mariah May retaining. Obviously, I think that's tough, but I think the stipulation, it's going to be enough that Thunder Rosa, I think, will the audience will be behind her in this, and I could see this being a maybe one of the sleeper matches on the show.
Yeah. I can't really say I've been too thrilled with like the amount of work they put into Thunder Rosa to make her feel like a challenge. Like this feels like a pretty lame duck challenge to me, because we all know Mariah's probably holding onto the belt until we get to Toni Storm, and having Thunder Rosa sit front row holding signs hasn't exactly been a great way, in my opinion, of like making me feel like
this time her dad will be there holding the signs.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, we're more. I'm more interested just in the night of and the quality of this match, and how presumably violent it'll be, and how entertaining it'll be. And I think these two will do a great job. I think May retains, but I really hope that Rosa gets to retain something coming out of it.
Konosuke Takeshita defends the international title against Powerhouse Hobbs, and this one's interesting because it does have ramifications for the Tokyo Dome, because if Takeshita wins, he defends the international title against Shingo Takagi on January the 4th, and the winner of that match takes on Tomohiro Ishii on January 5th at Wrestle Dynasty. So you could get the belt off of Takeshita here, so you don't have that kind of that political issue of a champion being on those Dome shows. And I can't say this one has been like red hot in terms of how they built it up, but there is a story here that has been largely confined to like Rampage and a bit on Collision, but it's definitely an interesting like styles matchup for Takeshita to have with with a Powerhouse Hobbs type of performer.
It's a meat match, I mean, the story is relatively simple. Like the guy left the faction, or the guy was ousted from the faction. Now he's going to get revenge on former faction members. There's not that much to it. Again, one that I'm more excited to see the results of in ring. It's a Takeshita match on pay-per-view. Like, it can't not be good. I think for Hobbs, it's a major test to see what he could deliver with somebody who's a performer.
This is the biggest match Hobbs has ever had. I would argue.
Yeah. It's his chance to like really kind of make a mark. He's not going to get these PLE. Sorry, God, they got me speaking their speak. He's not going to have these pay-per-view opportunities that often. If unless he like really makes a statement here. He's somebody who should be on a lot of pay-per-views, should get a proper push. But I think it's it's that much more necessary for him to have like something that's memorable coming out of this match. So Takeshita, I think, retains, because I think Takeshi's going to face Ishii at Dynasty, so I think he beats Shingo. It feels kind of odd for him to drop the belt here only to like win another title, and like, so I think they just don't play with that and just have him retain.
A rematch from last month, Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander. That was excellent last month. I think Chris Statlander is one of the most like underrated female performers in the industry. And Moné has been on, like, say what you will about her transition into AEW. She has been on this incredible run with the Statlander match, with the recent Hazuki match as well. And I have no doubt that this one will build off of last month. I think this. I have way higher expectations for this than I did going in, and I expected a good match last month, but it over delivered.
Absolutely, I actually love this simple booking of just going to the rematch. For like, number one, we often talk about people who challenge for AEW championships that lose and just end up being forgotten. This at least keeps Chris Statlander in the spotlight for another month. Might actually even build up. I'm not going to say that a title change is possible here, but it's not completely impossible. I wouldn't do it right now. Certainly not for Statlander, who I think even though like she had a great match, I still wouldn't necessarily say she's a hot character, or at least hot enough to unseat Monet. But the legacy of the matchup is already like what it is, that I think just building a rematch is attractive enough. So it's one of the matches I'm looking forward to the most on this show.
What happens if we're 20 minutes deep? Crowd's going nuts for these near falls and then hopping the barricade. That's Camille.
Oh God, it's not impossible. Yeah,
Nothing
we got the
is
movie
impossible.
coming out.
That's right. June Byers needs to be back on TV at some point. And then into the Continental Classic. So Will Ospreay faces Kyle Fletcher, another rematch from last month, which, I mean, I don't know how you top what they did in November, but they're going to try. And then Kazuchika Okada against Ricochet. And then both have to come back and do the final. It wasn't until I was looking at this card today and looking at like the amount, they have 8 matches on the pay-per-view. And you would have to think that this match allotment, they're going to give so much time to these semifinals and final.
As they should.
Like the winner, the finalists are probably going to have to do around 45 minutes to an hour between both matches combined.
Right.
Like, and it's got to be like people are expecting like 3 match of the year candidates out of these tournament matches. Yeah. There is an unbelievable weight on the shoulders of these 4 to really bring this tournament home and deliver it. And that's sort of what you're expecting. It's
so with
crazy.
that said, knowing that, 2 of these participants have to wrestle twice, do you think audiences would be upset if the 2 opening round matches are kept at a relatively shorter length? Like a 10
I don't think they are, given that we have 8 matches. And I think if there was going to be any additions to the main card, they would have made it tonight on Rampage. I think with 8 matches on a main card.
Well, you might be going a 40-minute main event. Okay. So if they're going to do a 40-minute plus main event, would going 10 minutes for each of the first
Ospreay
round?
and Fletcher, I don't think they'll do less than 20. I don't think there's any way. Okada and Ricochet, I think similar. I think that one's going at least 20. I see Okada and Ospreay being the finale. I
do too.
I don't like the idea of beating Ospreay a second time to Fletcher, and I do not see Ricochet going to the final here. And then I think it's a coin toss. Like you could go with Ospreay or you could go with Okada. I think that's it might even be easier that you're going to watch these semifinals and you only have like 3 hours to in your mind how are Okada and Ospreay going to be able to live up to this expectation. With Okada, it's not like Okada has knocked them dead this year in AEW, and he is going to really be put to the test on Saturday if we're getting at least 1 and probably 2 matches out of him.
Yeah, I guess to be fair, we've not had commercial-free Okada. We've not had commercial-free.
That's how they need to market him. Forget this Masahiro Chono best tournament performer.
Commercial-free 30-minute plus main event, presumably Okada. Okay. Do you think this main event? Do you think the final main event?
I would. I would
too. Yeah, I would too.
I don't think the 4-way is strong enough to end this show, and I think the Continental Classic needs to be positioned as like this is the crowning moment of this card that it's all built around, and I would end with that, especially because if we throw out the theory, and I lean more towards this being Okada, that you really push this idea he is the best tournament wrestler of all time. He ties Chono's record.
Does Chono show up? Okay.
Well, you know what? Maybe it is Kenny Omega dressed as Masahiro Chono, all in black as he comes out. Maybe Chono walks out with Kenny Omega. But I think that is the closing shot, is Kenny Omega coming out and points the gun at Okada. Because Okada does need something post, like for 2025. It's like the Bucks thing seems to be way off. They're going to come back and do their thing. Omega, it's... all signs point to he's going to appear on this show before he shows up at Dynasty. And that to me would be the target. That would get you that big buzzworthy moment, is that Omega and Okada is coming. You just don't know when.
The Omega element makes things very interesting, and actually probably leads me towards thinking that Okada will win. You know, if those two are going to have a feud over something. Let's also remember Ospreay had that scene with Darby where he says like, after all this is done or something to that effect, I'm gonna help you with the Death Riders, so you can, you know, like maybe even anticipate. Well, I guess there's no interference in the C2, but I guess we could maybe anticipate Osprey breaking off into something involving the Death Riders after this, and that leaves Omega and Okada. You could of course do Omega and Osprey as well, but it just doesn't seem like the timing nor the story is there as much, because we're talking about Omega probably getting involved with the rest of the elite, and Okada is still technically a member of that elite. So I think Okada and Ospreay in the finals, with Okada retaining.
And then I was going to say main event, but we will see where this gets placed. Jon Moxley, Orange Cassidy, Hangman Page, and Jay White. I think this match is going to be outstanding. I really think like the four of them are going to I really think this could be a really, really spectacular 4-way match. I just don't think there's any. I think the one person that the audience really does have a belief in is Hangman Page. And to me, I would be protecting Hangman in a way that you can come back with Moxley and Hangman if you don't have that next challenger ready for a Jon Moxley after this. Their next pay-per-view isn't until March, and you could do it on TV. But, Darby's going to be off climbing mountains, and I think it's way too early for Ospreay to be going for Moxley as well. That I could see Hangman being the one that he's either he somehow gets he has the win and it's taken away from him or something. Someone costs him it, and Cassidy eats the pin, or Jay White eats the pin, and Hangman is left as the one with a claim to challenge Moxley in a singles match.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be Cassidy and Jay White. I find him compelling. I think his like status is growing as a babyface, but I don't think he's compelling enough for a singles challenge yet. Certainly not on a pay-per-view. Otherwise, I think we would have had that match on this particular show. So I could see Hangman being next in line, as really the hot character. But as far as like who takes the pin in this one?
I'll say Jay White.
I could see Orange actually taking the pin again. He could accept it and it doesn't really hurt him.
Yeah, I don't know. Just because he kind of feels like the designated fall guy here. It's you could go that direction too. What did you make of the angle that they did on Wednesday's show where Christopher Daniels comes to Hangman, right, and he is accused of being an office stooge, and Daniels says, "If you need a friend, I'll be there for you." It's like, you're a official with the company, and you're offering your assistance to one person in this 4-way match that you, in theory, have booked.
Yeah, and
I had many issues with this.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Brandon from New Jersey did point out something pretty interesting in that, like, Renee is right there, and I know like they've done a great job of having Renee like be totally like impartial and not at all attached to like her husband's actions, but it is a bit odd having Daniel say that in front of her, like saying that I'm going to help you against my colleague's husband, essentially, Anyway, clearly leading to something, and what that is, I guess remains to be seen. I guess we are to anticipate Death Rider's involvement in this World Championship match, and maybe Daniels will sort of like use his powers to somehow nullify that.
Yeah, I mean, Daniels is pretty much admitting he's corrupt, but for the good of the company.
Yeah, would you say it's corruption, or is it more like...
Well, I'd be kind of pissed if I was Jay White or Orange Cassidy that this guy who's in management is playing favorites here in this match.
Well, let's remember that the company is corrupt, okay? The Bucks were the source of corruption, and they kind of like let the Death Riders do their thing.
Well, the natural here is that, and it's why I don't disqualify the idea of even Hangman taking the fall. It's this story that you can't do this on your own, and Daniels is the bridge to Hangman and his former friends that can eventually come back to take on the Death Riders, because Hangman needs help.
So who are the former friends
The Bucks.
as baby faces coming back?
They have to come back as baby faces, I think, at this
I don't
point.
know. I don't
Which is
know
a
about
mess
that.
with this Kenny Omega story. Like in a perfect
Yeah,
world, this is the time to bring back all of the Elite as the Avengers.
I
But
don't think
you've
you
done
could
this
just-
angle with Omega and the Bucks that was the whole reason that he's been out. And you almost have to tie that loose end up.
I don't think they're coming back as baby faces. I mean, so I don't even. They're not gonna.
They're coming back as sub heels then in the middle to be below the real heels in the Death Riders.
I think they at least have to start off as that, and then they have to tell a bit of a redemptive arc, to just to turn them onto the side of good again. So Daniels isn't even friends with the Elite.
He was the one that was appointed. He was the one trying to keep the Bucks from running off.
Yeah, but he doesn't like them. I don't think they're on good terms, at least.
All right.
Maybe it'll be.
This is
SCU.
we're going into the Young Bucks stories. And,
Yeah, sorry.
This has not been a great year
Moxley
for,
retains. One of the three gets pinned. Any of them could get pinned.